On a warehouse floor, a supervisor publicly strips a pregnant worker's stool and dumps her drink, marking her name under a bathroom sixolations board. A forklift driver stops the conveyor with an emergency halt and forces a pause, risking suspension and a lost promotion to get her seated and safe. Quiet care follows, revealing denied accommodations and fragile plans, and later, small shifts ripple through the shift. Posted policies, water coolers, and an unurable, taped-up stool. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And hey, where are you tuning in from? Leave your country in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories reach. The stool went out with a metal scrape that made heads lift. The supervisor snatched it from under the packer station, hoisted it like contraband, and held it high so cameras could see. No sitting, he said, loud enough to reach over the hum of the belt. She grabbed the edge of her table to steady herself. Her belly pressed against the scanner strap. The strap dug in. The supervisor flicked his eyes to the clock, and then to the whiteboard where he'd written bathroom solations in fat marker and a row of tally lines under her name. He plucked her water bottle, held it up, squinted, then twisted off the lid. Colored, he said, sniffing. Policy says clear liquids only on the floor. He poured it into a trash can. The apple-sweet smell rose up with a hit of disinfectant and rubber. No one looked at her. People kept feeding the line. Boxes slid on plastic rollers, tape guns snapped, and the conveyor belts sang one note. Marco watched from lane B, thumbs tucked into the edge of his high-vis vest, sweat cooling under his hoodie. He'd been on forklifts 12 years. He had a write-up from last month for tone. He had an interview on Friday for lead driver that might bump his pay $1.75. Rent hit Monday. His sister needed his help with her boy's braces. He didn't have a second job to catch him if he fell. The woman at the station, he'd seen her around, shifted from foot to foot, ankles round in her boots. She breathed through her nose and counted boxes, like counting would keep her from wobbling. She was maybe late 20s. Her hair was braided tight and tucked under her cap. Someone had taped her scanner handle because the plastic was cracked. "Of course you're going to make me do this," the supervisor muttered, not yelling now. He pointed at the sign. No sitting. No phones. No drinks with sugar. Kota bored. He wasn't a cartoon villain. He had the same red eyes everyone had by midweek, but he used the board like a bat. "We got a regional in 2 weeks," he said to no one and everyone. "We can't look messy." Marco's fingers pressed the rough ridges of the steering wheel until they bit. He could hear the chain drive on his mast clink as it idled. He looked up at the bubble camera, then down at her hands, the way they went pale around the knuckles. His heart did a slow, big thump. He saw a different week where he kept his head down and drove pallets and didn't think about it until he saw her name move from the schedule to not there. He heard himself say, "Quiet, nope." He killed his beeper, eased the yellow forklift into neutral, and rolled out of lane B so slow he was almost still. He coasted to her line, the forks low. The belt carried one more box past her, then another, like a river that didn't know. He leaned and hit the big red mushroom E-stop with the heel of his hand. The conveyor died like someone had pulled the cord on a vacuum. The sound collapsed. For a second all you could hear was a tape gun ripping, and then that stopped too. Heads turned. A picker somewhere swore. The supervisor looked at his radio, then at Marco. "What are you doing?" "Safety stop," Marco said. He set his foot and hopped down. He picked up the stool from where it leaned against the steel rack. He put it back at her station, legs scraping the grey concrete. He took a folded piece of cardboard from a crushed box and shoved it under the short leg to stop the wobble. "Sit." She didn't move at first. Then she lowered herself like the stool might fight back. The way her shoulders dropped and her face let go made Marco's teeth grit. He set his own water bottle by her scanner. "Here," he said. "It's just water." The supervisor was on him fast, radio at his shoulder. "You don't run my line," he said. His voice wasn't big now. It was hard. "Get back in your lane. Start your machine." Marco stepped between the supervisor and the stool, palms out, vest bright. "She can't stand right now." He kept his voice flat. "This is a safety stop. I'm making it mine." He reached over, logged into the station, and tapped main hold on the screen, which made the little amber light flash over the table. He saw his own name stamp onto the event log. "No way to walk that back." "Don't touch my controls," the supervisor said. He took one step forward. The radios at everyone's shoulders crackled like frying bacon. "Restart, or you're done." "Write me up," Marco said. He had sweat under his hat. His mouth was dry. Write me up and restart in 5 minutes. I'm not moving until she sits, drinks and tells me she's okay. The woman swallowed and stared at the water bottle. Her fingers shook. I'm okay, she said, but she didn't sound okay. She tilted the bottle and took one drink, like it might set off an alarm. A guy down the line said, "Don't, man," soft, like a warning. Another one reached for his phone and then put it back fast. Security walked in, 2 of them matching jackets, bored faces that weren't bored now. The older one looked at the camera and then at the amber light. The supervisor gestured with an open hand like he was showing a mess he didn't make. We all stop for safety, Marco said to the guards, voice low. He pointed at her ankles. Look, that's swelling. Look at her fingers. She asked for a stool. He didn't look at the whiteboard. He didn't have to. HR says no accommodations without paperwork, the supervisor said. He rubbed his forehead with 2 fingers, the way people do when the headache starts at the nose. She hasn't given me anything official. I'm not having a fall on my line. They'll fire me. His voice cracked on the last word like he heard it as he said it. She gave a note. The woman whispered. I did. They lost it. Security looked at each other like a coin landing. The older one said, Everyone breathe. We can do 5 minutes. He said it to nobody and everybody, like he wanted the cameras to record his best self. The supervisor exhaled. He looked smaller. Fine, he said. His eyes flicked at Marco like he wanted to remember this. Clock out when this is over. You and me, office. Marco nodded. He pulled a crate under the table and set it at the woman's feet. Put your feet up, he said. She did. He watched color come back to her face like someone was dialing it in. He didn't say it out loud, but he thought, hold on, we got you. He walked her to the break room, the guards trailing without touching him. The break room smelled like coffee that had burned down to mud and microwave burritos. The vending machine buzzed and threw yellow light. He punched a button and watched a pack of peanut butter crackers hang up and then drop. He set them on the table. He handed her a napkin. You have anyone to call? He asked. She dug in her tote with slow hands. It was canvas with a flower print, the handles fraying. Things came out in clumps. A folded ultrasound photo, grey and foggy with a shape that looked like a fist. A packet of flashcards bound with a rubber band that said PHLBO Tommy on the top one. A letter with a logo in the corner. Accommodation request denied. A note from a clinic with a phone number and elevate feet when possible in messy blue ink. A Ziploc bag with saltines. She didn't look at him when the letter creased open. She put her hand over it like you'd cover a wallet on a bench. My grandma, she said. She's got a flip phone. I don't know if it's on. She pulled a smaller paper loose. It was a pay stub with hours that didn't add up to a full week. They cut me after I asked. Said they didn't have room on the schedule. Marco's throat clicked. He pulled his own phone out, thumbed to contacts, hit a ride app. He didn't do speeches. He slid the phone across to her. Type where you want to go. He pulled cash from his wallet and set it under the phone. It wasn't much. It was the envelope he kept for the braces fund, soft with being handled. I can't take that, she said. You can, he said. It's for feet. He cracked the joke with a straight face, and that made her laugh once, the sound like a hiccup. It was enough to make the room feel different. The supervisor pushed in the door like he was trying not to push too hard. He looked at the guards, then at Marco, then at the woman's feet on the crate, lines carved deep around his mouth. You can clock out, he told Marco. He put a paper on the table with a pink copy under it. Final warning was block-stamped at the top. 1 week unpaid, he said. Lead driver application is withdrawn. He didn't say why. He didn't have to. Marco took the pen. His name looked like a kid had signed it. He set the pen down and didn't look at the supervisor when he said, I'll be back. He didn't mean back to the office. He meant back to the floor, eventually, because he would. People didn't love him. People needed him. That was enough. The supervisor rubbed his thumb and forefinger together like he was rolling a pill that wasn't there. I'm drowning, man, he said to the air. Then he left. The door side shut. Marco waited with her until the ride app said the driver was 2 minutes away. He held the door and watched her stand slow, give him back his phone, fold the cash under the crackly packet of saltines. She slid the ultrasound photo back into the tote, but not before he saw the date stamped in the corner. Close. So close. Thanks, she said. The word was weird and formal in her mouth, like she didn't want it to be about that. I'm Tasha. Marco, he said. Call if you need. He took a napkin and wrote his number in big, clear numbers. He tucked it into the pocket on the front of her tote. It looked like it had been made to hold a phone the size of a deck of cards. In the loading bay, night wind pushed in. The air had metal in it. He walked with her to the door where the ride would pull up, then stopped at the yellow line he wasn't supposed to cross. He stood there until the headlights hit her face, until the car door opened, until she went. He went home, counted his envelope, counted his days, and slept like someone had unplugged him. He came back a week later. He handed over his badge and it beeped green and worked. No parade, no handshake. He rolled his forklift out slow to feel the tires on the floor like you'd test a bruise. The camera blinked red in its bubble. At her station, a stool sat with its legs wrapped in silver tape and a piece of cardboard under the short one. Someone had sharpied "Do Not Remove" on the metal seat. A photocopied sheet was taped to the pillar. Pegged Nancy accommodations. Contact HR before Denning. It was crooked. The tape was new. The whiteboard had different handwriting. The fat marker lines were thinner. Where the tally board had been, someone had taped a printed chart about brakes and heat stress. 2 water coolers had appeared, one at each end of the row. A stack of plastic cups sat in clean relief against the dusty grey. The supervisor's voice was smaller this week. He said, "You good?" At the start of the shift. He said it once to everyone, like he had rehearsed it. He didn't say anything about stools. He didn't say anything about quotas out loud, just tapped the board and kept his radio low. In the break room, people put chairs where there had been none. Someone left a box of granola bars open on the table with a sticky note that said "free" in all caps. Someone else wrote "not sugary" underneath, then crossed it out and drew a crooked heart. Tasha came back, slower. She wore compression socks like thick white stockings under her pants and walked with her feet wide, like the ground was trying to make her fall, and she wouldn't let it. She nodded at Marco like they had an old agreement. She sat. She scanned. She took breaks and put her feet on the crate without looking around to see who was watching. The amber light at her station flashed sometimes. Nobody rolled their eyes when it did. On Friday, the regional didn't show. Or he did and said nothing. It didn't matter. The floor still hummed. The tape still snapped. The packages didn't care. And the people did. Marco didn't get lead driver. The kid who did was fine. He memorized everyone's names and brought donuts once. He said please to the unloaders. He was not Marco. He didn't have to be. Marco checked the fork chains, greased the mast, and worked the corners. He saw one of the guards put a little sticker on the E-stop near Lane C. It said, "Stop for anyone." The sticker looked homemade. The letters were blocky and tilted like a school kid had done it. No one peeled it off. He watched the supervisor separate a stack of operator manuals one afternoon. The man's hands shook. He looked at Marco and then away, like he wanted to say something, and maybe later would. He took a breath. "Hey," he said, "if you see something, pull it again. Just do me the courtesy of telling me first." He smiled without his eyes. It wasn't a peace treaty. It was a line someone could walk without falling. On Monday, someone set another stool at a different station where a guy with a busted knee stood. The guy didn't make a show of it. He sat when he needed and stood when he wanted. No one snapped a picture. No one wrote a rule. Marco added a small tool bag to the side of his forklift. Tape, cardboard shins, a crosshead screwdriver, a spare phone charger. He stopped calling them fixes. He called them ways. His nephew came to visit the warehouse once and touched the E-stop on the forklift dock like it was a big red lollipop. "What's this?" the kid said. "The off button," Marco said. "If something's wrong, you hit it. You can do that just for safety." The kid nodded like this was a good superpower. When the air got cold again, the break room coffee didn't, but someone brought in a kettle and cups. They made tea that tasted like grass and corn syrup. People drank it anyway. He kept seeing the card with "Do Not Remove." He kept seeing the cardboard wedge. He kept seeing the way her shoulders had dropped when she sat. He kept his number written on a napkin under the salt packet by the register at the vending machine. It got soft with humidity. He rewrote it when it smeared. He caught himself looking up at the red mushroom sometimes, thumb brushing it, without pressing. It had a tiny nick from where his ring had hit it that day. At the end of his shift, the warehouse lights clicked one by one to night mode. The floor went from bright to a softer white. He parked the forklift, set the brake, and sat there in the hush while the belt hummed down the last of the day. He thought of the ride car's headlights spreading on the floor, and the way the wind had pushed in, and the sound of her laugh that hiccuped once and stopped. He didn't have a big thought to follow that. Just the picture of a stool with a piece of cardboard under the leg, level enough to hold. He slid off the seat, tugged his vest straight, and walked past the stool. His fingertip brushed the edge of the cardboard wedge as he went. It barely moved. Outside, morning shook up in the windows. A pale stripe of sun cut across the grey floor and turned the duct tape silver.